Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with the TRE preview mod. Well, we've seen most, well, there's still events coming, but we've seen most of what has been added so far with this version, though my in-work version is further along, but not as stable as I want to do it to make a series out of it. That we've seen, though I'm having fun. This is sort of an interesting invasion of France. So my current plans are to finish out the conquest of France and then end this series. So what I'm sort of wanting from you, and unfortunately now the viewership of this channel has gone down. Still a fair number of subscribers, I guess. People are still interested, just waiting for something they want to see, and that's fine. I don't watch things I'm not interested in either. So it's not you got to watch what I'm making. I don't feel that at all. I've got to make something interesting that not just you here, but that are watching this now, but people generally want to see. So and though I do want to keep making Hearts of Iron, I'm still going with the British series for 3. That isn't ending, but we're switching back and forth. I will be making some Cossacks 3 videos. I hope those are popular with you and popular generally speaking, but we'll be doing some of that. Again, if viewership falls down too much, I will stop making those, but if they're good enough, I will be making some of those as well. You should, if you haven't, you should check that out. I've loved Cossacks 2. This what GSC Games sent me as a beta version that is being updated. They don't have officers to be able to form proper command groups for cavalry yet, so I presume that's coming. So you're looking at the beta version there, but it's still fun to play. So what I want to know from you is what country you want to see me play. I've even thought of doing France. And I'm thinking of either doing the D-Days common units of World War II mod, or the Black Ice mod. My concern with Black Ice is sort of twofold. One, I don't really and I haven't looked at it deeply, so if some of you have been playing it, I presume maybe I'm mistaken on this, but I do sort of follow the forum postings on it. It doesn't seem like it's there yet, as in really ready to go. No knock on them. TRE obviously isn't ready to go yet. It just, they released it, partially I presume because of popular demand, partially to get all of the great feedback from those playing it. You know, it could just be balanced feedback, you know, that kind of thing. Not just find the bugs, but get good balanced feedback. So it's no knock on them, but I don't know if it's really ready to go yet. And 2, yeah, I do sort of know ways to get it and sort of lock it so it's not updated, but how long it sort of takes to do a series the way I do it, at least, which could be a reason why people aren't viewing more of them. But you know, the series goes for many days, and they're constantly, which is good, but is the Black Ice standard is constantly making more episodes, or not more versions that may not be compatible. So it's a compatibility question, so I don't know on that what I should do, but that, and so country and what sort of mods you might want to see played. So let's take a quick look around. I also wanted to do what the others doing. It looks like Italy has successfully broken through here with France. They look like they have no opposition in moving into French territory there, and have created a nice pocket here That looks like it's South Africa. And it looks like a South African invasion. Is that what happened here? I'm sorry, I haven't been following along closely enough to know. Meaning, did this go into the Italian rear, or is this a pocket that I'm guessing? Well, maybe it's a French unit there was a pocket. Nice, and they've reinforced. Could be. Okay, and the other main action here is we have Japan. And China doing okay. Of course, they've lost northern China and are attempting to regain it. If they can get to Pusan port, I think they'll be successful. So, and of course, Italy is maneuvering around Africa there. But unfortunately, which is an AI issue, I think, can't imagine anything else, is Italy is not moving out of Libya into Egypt either, even with, you know, limited forces. And it looks like they're drawing some sort of plans here, but no divisions assigned. Which I don't know how much is, you know, what I'm playing here is a now a mix. It started out with 1.1 and now we're in 1.2.1 Hearts of Iron 4. So the AI has improved, changed, which, so the planning, I'm not sure which version is most responsible for that. But the AI has done mildly well for the Battle of France, I would say, at least for the German side. I think they may have determined a little too much, the threats being up here. We're going to stop that and we're going to attack into there. Being too much Germany and didn't garrison their border with France well enough is a possibility. Okay. I want to move all of you via rail so we get there fast. Down here to the Paris front. Support that attack. Good. I don't want to lose Paris, even for a moment. But I do wish to keep pushing on more than one front here. that attack. Really learned that pinning forces are sort of the key. Pinning attacks, maybe I should say more accurately. Because otherwise the AI is able to, whether they should be or not is another question, but is able to, and they should be to some degree, but I think maybe a little too rapidly, able to shift forces to other attacks. Division to this attack here. And these guys are across. Okay. We're going to split that attack. Good. Burst out of here. Got a nice pocket up here. Let's make sure they don't completely Dunkirk it and pull everybody out. Along those lines, let's attack Dunkirk. Keep attacking there. We're going to support this attack from the radical flank side. There we go, now we've got them cut off. Support that attack. Continue to push here. Just always push. Everything always push. That's what I've learned from reading various and mostly German like Rommel's. Oh no, I don't want everybody forward. I want just you. No. You. Organized. There we are. All the rest of you guys move forward. If we can, we're going to close this pocket in too. As well, I should say. Well, that's good. Just checking to make sure we haven't been invaded somewhere. Now push on to Dunkirk. And support that attack. Triumph in France. Establish Vichy France. Okay, so we have here, and this looks like it's going to be a relatively short episode. We've won in France. Well, especially looking at what we have with Italy here, and they're going to take out this pocket. Now, of course, we've taken Paris, which is the critical city for France. I don't think it could long survive without Paris. So yes, we've done that. We have Okay, well, notice now I have 25 divisions here. Oh no, 2 divisions for the 25th Army. Okay, that makes sense. So the AI has realized that it has units and no real opposition. Here, of course, they seem like they're doing a good job for Italy, moving around here. So that is good. Okay, so we will... Okay, second armistice Compiègne. The first one, of course, was um, the armistice ending World War I. Okay, I gather under its peace rules. Well, who's still fighting here? Okay, well, they're still fighting here for France. I guess some non-Vichy units, but I don't like the peace rules here. If I wanted to establish Vichy France in the traditional way, I should. Okay, now, well, we got some more fighting still going on, so we're going to complete that up, just because I want to. Okay, got to hold a lot more factories, and we're producing a lot of aircraft, which is what I want to do. Using up more than we're producing, but we have stockpiles, which is good. Light tanks. We're going to produce more tanks because I want to convert all those light tank units to medium tanks. So reduce that down. Okay, so we've got tank production bonanza, and we also have much more shipping production capability. There we go. Now we also will have a lot more. Both need to fix as well as we're going to let that go, but what we want to do here is trading. We need, wow, 86 tungsten. So we're already pulling all we can out of Norway. And out of Sweden. We need to go after the other major there's a lot of factories. No, we don't need quite that much. Let's go with that. There we go. So we're going to buy almost entirely out. One more, so there we go. And I want to try to build my way out of the oil and rubber as opposed to try to trade for it at this point. Okay, so the battle continues. Vichy set up. but we have remainder French units here. We need to clean up pockets. Okay. Well, that cleaned up some more of them, but not all of them. Okay, the flight of Rudolf Hess. Deputy Fuhrer Rudolf Hess was arrested by the Home Guard soldiers in Scotland after parachuting. Okay. This is a Washin. Don't know what that means. Could be something Scottish, but not that I'm aware of. Why did he do that? Well, he was a rather popular figure, my understanding, in Nazi Germany. Mostly popular with the people. I understand he would often I don't know the lengths of these things because I only really quite honestly watch clips of them because I don't understand the words, and I catch a word or two, but I don't understand the message of, Hitler's and other Goebbels speeches, so it's just more for me to get the impression of, their tone and their body language and whatever else out of them, so I don't really know, but I don't think they were too long, because sometimes Hitler would go for a long time, of course, speaking. So he would give I think a relatively short speech, and as sort of an introduction to Hitler on most of the major occasions. So on at least the excuse me, the big the big occasions of the Nuremberg rallies and a lot of the other ones, that the people were seeing Rudolf Hess about as much as they were seeing Hitler. Now there aren't, Germany was covered in photographs of Adolf Hitler at this time. The idea, you're in your home, you should have a picture on the wall of Adolf Hitler, theoretically. At your work, behind your desk, if that's the type of, if you're a desk type person, have a workspace like that, you'd have a picture up of Adolf Hitler. He was everywhere. Okay. I've seen more, I would say, and maybe it's just because it's photographed. I think there generally was, now during the election campaigns is a little different, but I would think there were more pictures up of Mussolini's face in Italy, and often some sort of, Art Deco style portraits in relief or stone or whatever you want to call them on the sides of buildings for Mussolini. There was a little bit more of that in big sort of public rallies, I would say. This is my impression. And of course, impressions can be wrong because there can just be 2 or 3 of them, the major ones that are popping into my mind for Mussolini, but they're constantly recycled in photos, if you know what I mean. So, because my view on the past is through photos, not that I was there. So, where I don't see a lot of that, where I see a lot of swastika flags and other Nazi stuff for Hitler, but not a lot of like larger than life is sort of what I'm talking about around Germany of Hitler's face, head, whatever you want to call it. Desk ornament sized heads, yes, in bronze or whatever. Fair number of those that have survived the war. In the late 20s, early 30s, a lot of campaign posters, for the various elections that would have, and there's one very sort of dramatic one, that would have Hitler's face in them. Definitely that kind of thing. But we see that with whether it is Obama or Trump or whatever, a lot of times campaign posters with presidents' heads in. But fortunately, and whoever they may be, we don't see, once they're president, them putting on the sides of buildings in super large size, portraits of the president. love Mount Rushmore, love the idea that in the post office and other government offices that we do have a nice portrait of the president. That I think is fine and is changed as you know, if you go in a lot of federal offices, they have portraits of the president, whoever the current president is. During this time, in France, and I think also in Vichy France, you saw a lot of, let me change it. You didn't necessarily see Roosevelt's. This is from some documentary type things I've seen. Portraits up. A lot of the diplomats didn't like Roosevelt, so they sometimes left up earlier presidents, American presidents shown. It was sort of a State Department rebellion against, released with some maybe more individual based, but some State Department of people didn't like Roosevelt. But so there was definitely an awash of Hitler portraits, but there was not a similar thing of the deputy Fuhrer of Hess. So, but he was still very, very well known and a rather populist figure for the Nazis. But now this, of course, because we are sort of little bit later in taking out France than historically, and this is just in the early stages, but Hess is being sidelined by the war. He has no real war wartime function. He was within the Nazi Party and sort of his office as deputy Fuhrer. He was often the person who settled disputes with, there were lots of internal Nazi disputes. I'm sort of almost the Nazi Party is set up to have conflicting areas of responsibility. Two or more within, whether it's the government, as the Nazi Party takes over more and more of the government, but also within the party itself, two or more different agencies trying to do the same thing, and that was part of Hitler's Führer principle or leader principle, was to do that, to see which sort of agency, person, whatever, that would do the job the best. And so, at least for a while, there would be multiple, normally two, but possibly more, departments trying to do the same thing. And he who appears to be doing the better job wins that sort of dispute and ends up taking over the job entirely eventually. So that's sort of the philosophy that they had. Star Trek created that myth of the Nazi state was the most efficient state. If you look at the one episode known to man, it wasn't. It was a very inefficient state. But there was, whether it's two Gauleiters disputing with each other, or the Gauleiter disputing with, the SA leader for the Gaul, because they're sort of different organizations, or something, various disputes within the party hierarchy. I'm not talking about disputes between people like Himmler, Goering, Robert Ley, Goebbels, or whatever, the guys at the really top. I'm talking about the sort of mid-level and lower sort of disputes within the party. A lot of them came to Hess's office and his staff that he had. His main private secretary was Martin Bormann. So it was part of his responsibilities and his staff. And obviously, if it's a lower level thing, his staff would be taking care of it. But is working out the disputes across Germany wide. So there's got to be daily a lot of even if there aren't a lot overall, just the size of Germany when you're incorporating Austria and every Czechoslovakia and all these different parts over time from 33 onward, there's a lot for Hess and his department to do. But as the war and everything shifted over to the War and Military Command, much less so, and the other Nazi bigwigs are, to use sort of an 18th century term, are getting a lot more power and prestige. Goebbels is doing the propaganda. You got Himmler doing the SS thing with his military units. You've got Goering running the Air Force. You've at this time you got Fritz Todt starting to run the armaments industry. And so these other people are getting a lot more important. Now, as I've come to, and I found a new organization called The Link, literally within this last week, I found a new organization in Britain, new as in it started in 1937, but I had not heard of it before, and I thought I had heard of all of the significant pro-German organizations in Britain, but this is a new one, The Link, basically started by a otherwise fairly well-respected British admiral at the time. He was interred by after the fall of France as a danger to the state and the group, and it was set up to be a pro, but it's filling my catalog of who's going to be the collaborationists admiral if Germany invades and takes over and sets up a puppet France. So, but at least in the form that the group was, it was somewhat anti-Semitic, I believe, and pro-German. It wasn't, as it was set up originally in 37, something that is the best as I can understand, something that's advocating the German conquest of Britain. It's, in 37 you have the chaos in France between, the various parties. Of course, there's some far-right parties and some far left and various centrists that in 37 it looks like France could go like another civil war. I mean, I don't think it was that close to it, but if you're sitting in Britain and you're looking at the chaos in France, I really want to do a mod of France during that time period. I think it would be a fascinating thing to look at. I'm not quite sure exactly how to do it, but I want to do something like that. But it's something that could burst into a revolution, a civil war, a coup d'etat. So you could see France falling into the real radical left. And so instead of trying to pursue a Anglo-Franco alliance here, seeing that maybe France is now the enemy, potentially could become the enemy, along with the Soviet Union as the great threat to society here, looking, well, hey, maybe we should partner up with our pals, the Germans. That's how I take at least my initial look at The Link, partly because of the symbology used so far that I've seen with The Link, and it's basically I don't think the organization, and it's significant, it wasn't very large, but it wasn't as best as I understand it, trying to be like the BFU, in that it wasn't trying to do any, wasn't trying to be a political party at all. It wasn't, in my opinion, at least so far, and again, I've only known about it for a week and have very little information. It seems to be more of, the English-German Friendship Society kind of thing, and it seems to be much more of that type of thing. And their symbol is sort of a blue oval, sort of the badge that I've seen, that has basically a simplified map of Britain and a simplified map of Germany at the time, with like a safety pin connecting the two of them, or maybe a chain link, a link in the chain kind of thing. connecting the two up is that they're linked. No other within the symbology that I've seen, no swastikas, no fascist symbols, nothing that is looking to be party political, meaning you could be a British Liberal Party member theoretically, which are sort of they're not exactly the same, but it's more of the American libertarian kind of movement, as opposed to Labor being sort of socialist and conservative being authoritarian conservative, or whatever you want to say, for the Conservative Party. Different sort of, the Liberal Party in some ways is sort of the Libertarian Republican Party, or whatever, if you want to try to put that in British terms. So you could theoretically be part of that, but go, hey, well, Germany's going to be a better ally than France or something. That's sort of how I view it. Now, this admiral, oh man, I wish I had stuff in front of me right now, but I don't. Forget his name. He was interred, eventually let out. The war is still going on, but he and the other higher level members are thought no longer to be a danger to the state, if they ever were. But after the war, he from admiral to cabin boy is the name of the book that he publishes, sort of dealing with his experiences of being interred, and then post-war, and then a couple of more books of post-war, and then those are mostly ranting and raving about the Jewish Masonic state or control of the world or whatever. So he had a lot of funky ideas, anyways. So don't think I'm trying to oh, he was a good guy or anything. No, but but you have this link organization, you have the Reich Club, you have various other German-British associations that I think in Germany, I think there was a level of misunderstanding, and not just at the top. I think Hitler, Hess, but also I think the common person on the street misunderstood the divisions in Britain and the likelihood of a negotiated peace, if you will. I think they really think that it's sort of Churchill and his clique is what's standing in the way between peace between Britain and Germany, and if you can just get to the right people and say, well, this is our, this is what we'll settle for, a negotiated settlement, a peace or whatever. If you could just get to them, they could then stage a coup against Churchill, which doesn't necessarily mean some sort of troops marching on Whitehall or 10 Downing Street or something, but just simply a parliamentary, votes of no confidence, throw the government out kind of thing. But what they really missed was, and it was public on the radio, so if they were paying attention at all, even through their embassy in Dublin, which had access to all the British, newspaper accounts that they could efficiently send back to Germany, so it doesn't take a spy in London to get all the newspapers, really see that Churchill's cabinet and government was an all-parties thing, meaning it had the Liberal Party, it had the Labour Party, it had the Conservative Party, it even had the Conservatives that didn't like Churchill traditionally in it. It was just Chamberlain himself, as any official duties or roles, stepped aside, though he did support Churchill's government. So it was really, by the time Churchill was there, and all parties were in this war and were fighting this war, goddammit, kind of thing, that really throws off any idea that this could have happened and would have been successful. But I really think they misunderstood Britain, because even if, and I would say, between the Who Wants to Die for Danzig, which was more of a French thing, between, this is just going to be another disaster, especially after the fall of France, people, if you will, defeatism, but looking at how bad things are. People that thought the communists were the real threat in the world, to the to those who really preferred Nazism and whatnot. That generously, I would say generously, is a 10% of the population at this time. Because, there was a Scottish fascist movement. There's a bunch of other parties that are, different things, but they were marginalized. Not any one of the parties, in my opinion, is getting 10%. It's sort of all this sort of factions that are dissatisfied with the war and would be willing to go for a peace settlement is down at that level. So I think it's partially just a real misreading of what was practical in Britain at the time. But I also think it's the Haushoffers, Price Haushofer and his son, I forget. Hess was a very much, and more than, there's a couple of documentaries, but more than generally into, or set up, and maybe even more than Himmler, though that's sort of hard to maybe believe, but into mysticism, into that whole element, and generally the occultism, and the Haushofers had a lot of influence over Hess, and I think they may have suggested, pushed for this mission, as well, as if they had done it like, and if you go, it will be a great success, blah, 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 blah. And so I think they may have convinced him as well. So there's sort of the three factors. One, he's being marginalized. Two, a major overall British or German understanding of the situation in Britain. And plus this sort of occult mysticism element of Hess. That those three things came into being. Because Rudolf Hess going over to Britain is sort of like, and I forget who not obviously we know Truman is, but the earlier Vice President of the United States. It's like the Vice President of the United States making a midnight flight to Germany to try to have a peace agreement with Germany or something, without telling the president, without telling anybody else. That's how high level wacky this is. Think about I don't know, Dick Cheney flying to Afghanistan to negotiate with Osama bin Laden without telling anybody else, all on his own, or something like that. Or parachuting, or parachuting into Iran to try to negotiate a solution between Iran and George Bush or something. I mean, that's how unreal, if you will, in most people's minds, this Rudolf Hess trip to Britain. Now, it's often not talked about too much in the understanding, unless you're looking at this, because Rudolf Hess is a figure. If you study and look at the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, he's a major figure in that. And then if you're looking at the war of World War II, which a lot of us are, you look at that, he's a non-entity there. We don't, partially because, hey, in 1940 he disappears from it. So you have that, that he's not a figure. But also Robert Ley isn't much of a figure, as most people. He's in charge of the DAF, the Deutsches Arbeiters Front, the German Workers Front. But he's massively involved in allocating labor to Speer's armaments program. But we don't talk about him too much. Looking at World War II. But so they don't look at Hess that much. Excuse me, a little bit of hiccups. But he really was a major thing in doing this. So, very interesting. What I don't like about this, again, as we're looking at this sort of peace plan analysis, is this did not go to Germany. Don't know if it's sort of making up for this to Italy, But this is something that Germany would not have allowed Vichy to do because they needed to control the Atlantic coast. So, how interesting. Okay. Take out that Belgian unit. Yeah, now that this has happened, this is virtually over. Okay, well, I guess on that, that really wasn't a rant, but monologue. I guess we're going to end this series. I want to thank you for viewing. I want to thank you for, of course, liking the videos. I do appreciate that, all of you who are staying around. Just want to say at this point, when I'm recording this, Third Reich Events will not be out soon. I don't have a date for it. There's multiple factors going into whether, or what the dates will be, and it's more than just, is it good enough or is it playable? There's other elements going on, but I guess it's a hint, but so it won't be out soon, but I really want, if you're watching this a month after release and you've got some ideas or anywhere through this series for elements that you think should be covered by Third Reich Events, please post them, whether on the message boards here for the channel or on the Paradox message thread for Third Reich Events. Please post them. Please, I do want your input on it. I probably will do at some point another series with a preview, but much further along, not just an extra 60 events. I've got many more than that, but some point I'll do another preview. So that will happen. But you definitely want your input on that. So that won't be coming soon. And as I said before, the start of this, what country you think, and hey, the voices that speak are the ones that are going to get heard. So if I only have one or two people speaking and they all sort of agree, that's probably the next country I play, as well as whether the D-Day mod or the Black Ice mod. Because from what I looked, I like both of them, though I think the D-Day is a bit less radical change and a bit more complete, partially because it's less radical of a change, more completely done. So I'm open to suggestions. So thanks again. Please tell your friends, acquaintances, post on forums, whatever it is, to come and check out the channel. Thank you for doing that. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.